Zahawi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It is hard to make a statement this morning without reflecting on the tragic events overnight, the criminal invasion of a democratic free country, Ukraine, by Putin. My family lived through and experienced a despotic dictator in Saddam Hussein who lashed out at his neighbours. It never ends well for them because ultimately democracy, truth and justice will prevail, and I'm certain they will prevail again. With permission, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would like to make a statement about how we are safeguarding the future of our universities, putting them on a sustainable path for taxpayers and, of course, students. Our universities, our entire higher education system are some of the most innovative, important institutions in our country. 4 of our great institutions are ranked in the global top 10 list. They are a true powerhouse of innovation and research, even playing a leading role in the development of the COVID vaccine, and they will play a significant role in the prosperity of our country for years to come. We recognise, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the education at all levels plays a role in learners' personal fulfilment and, of course, pursuit of knowledge, whether that is in the humanities or, in my case, in the sciences and engineering, higher or further education. As we move past this pandemic and start a new chapter in our country's history, now is the time to ensure our universities are on solid footing, sustainable ground for generations to come. To do so, I am announcing the launch of 2 consultations which, taken together, outline our proposals, the plans for higher education sector and to secure a better deal for the student and the taxpayer. These consultations will deliver solutions to the problems which Sir Philip Auger's independent panel examined in such depth and so thoroughly. The Higher Education Policy Statement and Reform Consultation and the Lifelong Loan Entitlement Consultation address the pivotal recommendations made by the panel, to who I am indebted to for their excellent work. As members across the House know, one of the Auger panel's core recommendations was the provision of a lifelong learning loan allowance. That is why today I am launching a consultation on the lifelong loan entitlement to seek views from the sector and the public on the shape and scope of this important policy. Under this new and flexible skills system, people will be provided with a loan entitlement equivalent to 4 years of post-18 education to use over their lifetime, whether in modules or as a whole. They'll be able to train, retrain and upskill as needed in response to changing skills needs, changing sectors and, of course, employment patterns. It will be a powerful, innovative vehicle in levelling up, Mr. Deputy Speaker, providing real opportunities for everyone and giving businesses the skilled workforce they need to thrive and grow. In light of this new entitlement, it is now more important than ever that our higher education funding system is fair for both the student, but also fair for the taxpayer. The bottom line is this: if we fail to act, we can expect just 23% of students who enter full-time education, higher education next year, to repay the full cost of their loan. This is a challenge which our reforms will address. We are maintaining the repayment threshold at its current level for the current Plan 2 graduates until 2025, those who took out loans after 2012. We're also reducing the repayment threshold to £25,000 and extending the loan repayment period from 30 years to 40 years for students starting their studies in the autumn of 2023. This will make the system fairer for students and taxpayers. Graduates will see the benefit of their degree all their earning life, so it's only right and fair that they continue to contribute. We expect that as a result of our changes, the proportion of students paying back their loan in full will increase to just over half. Our significant regulatory reform work, which we are taking forward with the Office for Students, alongside the measures we are consulting on, will drive up students' outcomes and help students to access high-value employment that benefits them and the economy. Mr. Deputy Speaker, without these interventions, the student loan book will balloon to nearly half a trillion pounds by 2043. I have thought very carefully about fairness for students when pulling together this balanced package of reforms, and I'm pleased to say that we have delivered on our manifesto commitment to address high interest rates by reducing interest rates for students starting next year to RPI plus 0%, ensuring that graduates under these terms not have to repay more than they have borrowed in real terms. New students starting in academic year September 2023 are expected to borrow an average of £39,300. I've seen some spurious headlines today. In today's prices, they will borrow £39,300. We forecast that the average graduate will repay £25,300 in today's prices over the course of their loan. How does that compare with the current system? Well, the current system, the £19,500 is what they repay. I hope that offers colleagues clarity rather than claptrap headlines. I want to be clear. No student will repay more than what they took out in today's prices. Let me just repeat that. No student will repay more than they took out in today's prices. We are also continuing to freeze tuition fees for all students for a further 2 years. The combination of these measures, the reduction in interest rates and the 2-year freeze, mean a student entering a 3-year course next autumn could see their debt reduced by up to £6,500 at the point at which they become eligible to repay. When the total 7-year freeze is taken into account, this totals up to £11,500 less debt at the point at which they become eligible to repay. Mr. Deputy Speaker, alongside this, we are investing almost £900 million in our fantastic higher education system over the next 3 years. That will include the largest increase in government funding for the HE sector to support students and teaching in over a decade. An additional £750 million, will be invested in high-quality teaching and facilities, including in science, in engineering, in subjects that support the NHS, and in degree apprenticeships. There are those, Mr. Deputy Speaker, who say, why aren't you making higher education free? Now, to those people, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would say, look at our counterparts in Scotland. Over the last 5 years, universities in England have been able to cover their teaching costs more successfully than their Scottish peers because of our more sustainable system of tuition fees and grants. As part of our plans to reform the higher education sector, we are building on our work with the Office for Students to set minimum expectations around completion rates and progression to graduate jobs or further study. We are seeking views on policies that will help ensure every student has confidence that they are on a high-quality course that leads to good outcomes, a good job, and ensuring that the growth in our university sector is focused on high-quality provision wherever they are in the country. We're consulting on controlling student numbers and introducing a minimum eligibility requirement to access student finance. I want to make sure that every student who goes to university will be able to reap the true benefits and not feel that they have been missold and saddled with debt after completing their course. It is really important, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that we have this conversation about the need for minimum eligibility requirements to ensure students are sufficiently prepared to benefit from higher education before they enter university. Let me give you an example. This could be a return to the old requirement of 2 E grades at A-level, or a pass in GCSE in English and maths. Of course, there will have to be exemptions for some groups, including, of course, mature students, and, of course, part-time learners, on which we are also consulting. Young people should not be pushed into university if they are not ready. After our proposed exemptions that we are consulting on are applied, less than 1% of total entrants would be affected by a minimum eligibility requirement set at grade 4 at GCSE. But we will listen and be open-minded. Students' number controls would limit the uncontrolled growth of provision that does not lead to good outcomes or to good jobs. Incentivising the expansion of provision with the best outcomes for students, society and the economy has to be our goal. These proposals are about advancing real social mobility. This means shifting from a focus on simply getting students in the door, counting the inputs in, to ensuring that they complete their course and secure a good outcome after they graduate, being obsessed about outcomes. As with everything my department does, my officials and I have also carefully considered how we can support disadvantaged students with this package of reforms. Access to higher education must be dependent on attainment and ability to succeed and not inhibited by a student's background. Our proposals to reduce fees for foundation years would make them more affordable for students who need that second chance to enter into higher education. And our flagship national scholarship programme, in which we will be investing up to £75 million, will help support high-achieving young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to achieve their dream, regardless of course or university. Finally, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to complement the lifelong loan entitlement, we are rolling out new approved higher technical qualifications. These qualifications will be a high-quality, job-facing alternatives to degrees approved to deliver the skills employers need. From academic year 2023-24, we will be extending student finance access to these qualifications and allowing learners studying them part-time to access maintenance loans as they can with degrees. This will address financial barriers for learners and move towards the flexibility that we envisage through the lifelong loan entitlement. These two policies together will be vital in bringing together further and higher education much closer, just as the independent panel recommended. I believe that these reforms are fit for a dynamic and growing economy, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The reality is that apart from buying somewhere to live, taking on a student loan can possibly be one of the biggest financial commitments any young person can make. I am confident that they will set the sector up for success in the years to come and keep our student finance system fair, sustainable for students and the taxpayer. I've been continually impressed by the resilience demonstrated by students throughout the adversity of this pandemic, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we owe it to this generation and generations to come to ensure that education remains open to anyone with the ability and desire to benefit from it, and I commend this statement to the House. Richard.